All right. Today I have Dorothy Grace with me. She is a member in Life by the Books. And today we're going to be talking about her journey into bookkeeping and her experience in the program. So, Dorothy Grace, will you start by giving us a little introduction to yourself and then how you found your way into bookkeeping? We can take it in chunks. And I like to give people the permission to tell like their long story. We're not in any rush here, and people are interested in hearing the story.
Great. Thanks, Katie. I'm really excited to be here. Like Katie said, I'm Dorothy Grace, and the short story is I found Katie about almost exactly 2 years ago, and that's when I started my bookkeeping business. I originally went to school, got an accounting degree. I, funnily enough, got a C in my first accounting class, but I loved the challenge of it. So I was like, I'm gonna keep going because everybody else is dropping out, but this seems hard, and I think I'll always have a job if I finish this degree in accounting. And so I stuck it out and got my master's in accounting and my CPA. And then I went to a big state school, and basically I just didn't even think there was another alternative besides going to public accounting. Basically, just like everyone in my accounting class went the public accounting route, almost all exclusively Big Four. And so it was kind of just like that's what I did. So I was like, okay, let's do that. So I started in tax in public accounting, and I had gotten married in November, and tax season started in January. And so very quickly I was like, this is just not going to work for my life. And so I survived 1 year, which is kind of pathetic, but I made it 1 year in taxes. And then I switched into the nonprofit world and was there for almost 5 years until my second child was born. And then after she was born, I knew that I wanted to stay home with my kids, but wanted an outlet for counting and a way to make money and just continue kind of having another outlet besides being home with my kids. And so I, I think the way I found Katie was I was laying in bed one night. Like, I think I had like 1 month left of my maternity leave, and I was like Googling ways to make money with accounting. And Katie just came up. And then I started listening to your podcast and, got hooked into everything that you offer. And so joined Libby. And then like, I think I was probably like 6 months into Libby, and I was like, I also could use Babs. So I went back and bought Babs and went through the whole Babs program and took a break from Libby for a little while, have come back to it, and just love how much I've learned and grown and how far my business has come in 2 years.
That's awesome. I'm taking notes. I'm like wondering if it's going to look like I'm texting because I have my phone here to take
So
notes
that's
on
okay.
it. Because it's always like it's always different to hear the story from someone else and like what you were experiencing at the time. I have some questions. Like as I'm listening, I'm just wondering about filling in some of the holes first and things I noticed. First, I think it's funny that you were a C student, and I'm writing down the concept of like wanting to always have a job and then going on into that track. I'm guessing the master's in accounting was like straight after, like the fifth year that they talk about,
Mhm.
right? Yeah. So straight into the master's, then the CPA. I wrote, did you do the big four right before you answered it? So making it 1 year in tax in public accounting, and then you switch to the nonprofit world, which would have been out of public accounting, right? Like out of big four.
Right,
Okay.
right.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I I did that differently. And I'm wondering, sometimes I wonder like why? Why did I do it differently? Because I went to UCF in Orlando, and a lot of people were on that exact track. And it's interesting because I find myself like such a rule follower and such a path follower, but at the same time, I was rejecting that path. And already that path with like the big four, I'm wondering how I knew to be repelled by
Mhm.
it because they really glorified those. How many hours were you working before I say what I want to
Oh,
say?
so many. Like I think like normal weeks were always like it was never 40. It was like normal weeks were like 50, and then busy season weeks were like 60 to 80.
Yes.
But the thing that I hated most about it is that there was so much talk, just like, office chatter about showing face and like sitting in your desk, even if you didn't have anything to work on. And I hated that. I think when I, like, realized how much people were talking about that, how much of, like, a value it was to, like, sit there and, like, be the longest to sit in your chair, go home the latest, I was like, "This is just, like, what in the world? If you don't have work to do, why are you sitting here? Like, go do something else with your life. Like, why are you just sitting in this chair, and why is that valued?" I think that was, like, such an indicator for me, like, I'm not gonna make it very long if that's, like, the goal that we're trying to hit here.
Yeah. Also, I think it's interesting because you said like I only made it a year, and I didn't hear shame in the way that you said it, but I know that it brought me right back to, and I'm like nervous to say this. Ooh, but I don't know how to tell the story in any other way. It brought me right back to a walk I was having with a friend who worked for Big Four. And I never did, right? I've heard the stories and I knew about it, but I never did it. And so she was saying, like, her track was to be a partner. That's what she wanted to do, be a partner. And so it's like there's a percentage of people that don't make it past a year, and then a large percentage of people that don't make it past five. So if you can just
Mhm.
tough it out for 5 years, you'll climb the ladder because everyone else will disappear off of it, is the motto. And
Yeah,
yeah, as you were saying that, I was thinking hustle culture. And it's very interesting the depth of brainwashing that goes into the accounting industry starting at the college level, I think, because
mhm.
I mean, I didn't even know what Big Four was until I ended up pursuing an accounting degree. And I don't know, I feel like they start talking about that pretty early. Like
Oh,
you
yeah.
just start hearing the word Big Four and you start aspiring to that being the only thing that you can do. And you hear about the 60 to 80-hour work weeks. And I can't understand why that's even glorified because how could you be doing high quality work when you're completely burnt out? And
Yeah.
in showing face, man, what I really hope it's not that way now. Like, when was this?
This was in so I graduated in 2018, so, like,
Not that
2018,
long.
2019.
Not
Yeah, not that long ago.
not yeah, because I graduated in 2008. So I'm thinking, hopefully by now, almost 20 years out of college, which is embarrassing. Hopefully by now that culture is changing, but I don't know. I would be really curious. I do think that a lot changed in the COVID times, and so you were
Mhm,
still pre-COVID. But I would really
mhm,
hope that they're getting out of this because this is not how we should be working. We should not be, for a million reasons, right? Obviously, in our personal life, we should have a life. Yes, you can want both. I took that down in your notes too. Like, it sounds to me like you said you wanted another outlet. Those are the words that you used. And I think a lot of us do want that. So we want something, right? I don't know that I wanted an outlet. I wanted autonomy for me.
mm,
That
mm,
was that was really the driver. But something else that I've been thinking about is like just opportunity, pursuing
mm,
opportunity when it presents. I like that. So opportunity was showing up, which is how I started my bookkeeping business, by like conversations and then thinking like, well, I don't have to do this.
mm,
And but maybe this would have this perk, but there is opportunity. So let me see if I can kind of get it to work like this. Like
mm,
my first bookkeeping client was an accident with a gym and I didn't count it in my head. And and there were multiple gyms in that. So it was really one subset of the same thing that I would do on a quarterly basis in a couple of hours. And so I might have worked on it for like 15 hours a year, right? And I would forget that it existed outside of it. So I didn't consider myself a bookkeeper. The real first bookkeeping client was a big company that came to me that they weren't fitting into the CPA firm that I worked at. And they knew that I was home. So they called like,
mm,
they could use a dedicated headspace that's not an employee. Are you interested in this? And they were my first client, and I really tested with them. Well, I consider them my first client under this company that I started at the end of 2016, which is cool, right? We're like almost 10
mm.
years into that. I changed the name
Yeah.
to Orderly Accounting, and I signed the contract with that name, starting to take it seriously with this first client. And I charged them an hourly, and it was high. And I remember thinking, and I've told this story elsewhere, but we're restarting the podcast. So it's worth slowing down to say that for me, I was recognizing I was selling sleep. I had an 11-month-old at home. I had just found out I was pregnant with number two. And I knew I wasn't going to give on being a mom. I didn't want a job, but I did want the opportunity. And I wanted to see what I could make work. I knew what the firm billed. And I knew that the firm didn't want it. So I billed a little bit higher than the firm would have billed. I actually was going to do, and I'll just say it, like I was going to do 100 an hour. And then I gave myself time and slept on it. And I was like, if they're going to pay 100, they'll also pay 125. I'm going to do
Mm,
125. And so I submitted it for 125, knowing the firm would have billed about 90 for the lowest level work, but no one was
mhm,
supervising me. Right. And I knew that I could do this work without supervision, without a good process in place. And I knew that if they were to hire me with an employee, like replace me with a hire that was an employee, they would be paying a lot more than what I came out to
mm,
because that employee would work more hours and they would need
mhm,
benefits. And I wasn't going to have those things. So I thought about like, how can I maximize this and make it work in their benefit, but also to where it's beneficial to me and I won't resent it. And I learned so many lessons working with them. But yeah, like wanting something else. So I got off on this whole tangent talking about how we shouldn't be glorifying showing face and just
mm,
being there and clocking 60 to 80-hour work weeks for the big four for what? To boost billing? Like let's focus on value. Let's focus
mhm,
on working the amount of time that it can take to do the task efficiently, to deliver a high quality product, to not have to show face, and to give yourself an hourly rate worth about 3 to 4 times more than you would get somewhere else so that you have a time bank to live in.
mm,
That's the
mm.
idea that we should be achieving. And then absolutely everyone wins
Absolutely.
there
Yeah.
because the big four is not winning by paying you a salary that you're not fully working. You're not winning by being a martyr. The client's not billing by being, or not winning by being overly billed. So this
Mm,
is just a glorified, I don't want to be insensitive and use the word sweatshop, but I'm just thinking it's a
mm.
very brainwashed industry. And what else is that toxic to where those 50, 60, 80-hour weeks are paid at your 40 an hour week salary, right?
Yeah. 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 The interns would make more than the first year's staff because they were getting paid hourly
And
and we were salary.
nurses are really overworked, but they get paid for the
Paid.
hours that they work. They get compensated more for night shifts, right? But they are a pretty, I'm thinking that industry could use reform. And obviously, teachers, could use better with what they get paid and what they're asked to do. I guess I don't want to say at least because that's a broken system. Like it's a broken system for sure. But the idea that like you go to school in a professional environment and you come out and the industry has taught you that showing face and working a lot without getting compensated for it, without producing anything that matches that, is the thing that you need to do. Like, surely
Goal.
we can do better. Right.
Yeah.
So, lasting
Yeah.
only a year to me means you recognized that you already had other options and you were willing to break the mold because it's hard when you leave, right? Like,
Hmm.
I mean, I can't speak to it, but because you're spending so much time with these people, and I do know what it's like to just leave a regular corporate job and to have a lot of people with the same ideas together, then when you leave, you kind of know they're talking about you. Dorothy
Oh
Grace,
yeah. Oh
like,
yeah.
oh, what's she gonna
Oh yeah.
do? Oh, wait till I
And
make partner and I can post it on LinkedIn, and Dorothy Grace can like still just be doing whatever. So we have to be willing to break that mold and let people talk too.
yeah. I think, and I'm thinking back now, you're just kind of reminding me about my college experience, but the accounting majors at my school, we would get taken on these, I think they were called leadership retreats or something like that. But the firms would take you for a weekend, and it was basically like showcase our firm, kind of start recruiting you. The summer before your sophomore year. So it's like you've only finished your freshman year and they kind of start brainwashing you. And it's like really, I mean, they take you to all these nice meals. They're like really fun weekends. Like one I got to stay in the Ritz-Carlton. It was so nice. But they give you it's not a real look into what life is, but they kind of start brainwashing you then to then like this is the goal. Like if you can come work here, you have arrived, you have achieved. But then they take your life and they work you like a sweatshop, but you're like caught into the system. And so you like don't think about what's wrong because you're worried about what people would say. And then another thing that you reminded me of was it was maybe like a year after I left, I ran into one of my old coworkers just out somewhere. And she was just talking to me and she was like, yeah, once you get to this salary level, it's just really hard to think about going anywhere else. And I was like, it just, it just like reiterated like how she's bought in, thinks less of me because I've left, and is like trying to make me feel lesser than, when like I know in that moment I knew I had won because I had gotten out of the crazy rat race that's going nowhere. But that was just a funny comment that I'm like, okay, I really just have to like brush this off and not care. But it's funny how you still like care a little bit. Like, and I like need to prove that I'm better. But now I know that I've won and I don't have to prove, but it still just kind of like twinges you because the office gossip was just so real and rampant.
Yeah. I mean, and I have stories of these things for days too. But it's a deconditioning, right? Because you were conditioned into believing this. And so then
Mhm.
you have to decondition yourself to allow yourself to do that. And there's a whole other topic. I'm planning on bringing it to our coaching call tomorrow, just to talk about detachment for how we
Mm,
can regulate ourselves through our bookkeeping business. Because I'm just noticing that you can create a business that will give you ease. But if you don't protect it,
mm,
put boundaries in place, and like, safeguards and things like that, I think that there's a misconception with the word boundaries where it's like, I'm just going to push back on someone. But it's not
mhm,
even like a thing that you have to do when you have a system with boundaries in it.
mhm,
So my systems have boundaries, the ones that I work on, and I have like calls on schedules, inquiry forms that come into me, giving
mhm,
myself time. Because I mentioned that in laying in bed thinking like, what do I bill these people? I do not remember how long I thought about that, but I know that I didn't do it quickly. I didn't
mhm,
give them a quick impulse number. I probably in my head went from like, oh, 60 would be nice to, well, the firm bills 90 to, well, then I could do 100 to, well, then I could do 125. Let's see. Because if you tapped me on the shoulder, this is what I said to myself. If you tapped me on the shoulder as an exhausted mom of an 11-month-old who didn't sleep through the night till he was 2.5, pregnant with baby number two, and said, stand up right now for 1 hour, I wouldn't do it for $125. That's what I thought. So, not to sound like that, but it was like that. Like I needed sleep and it was only going to come from sleep. So
mhm,
what would I bill in order to lose sleep? So that's where I
mhm,
came up with it. And I got a little sidetracked here, but time, space. You
mhm,
have to
mhm,
allow those things. You have to give them to
mhm,
yourself, or you will not even achieve the business because you'll be signing clients, underquoting, working too hard, proving yourself, because this is how we're wired. And I don't know, I really don't know if this is I always say this. I don't know if this is a female thing. I don't know if this is, I am probably 10 years older than you, but we're somewhere in that same bubble of age that might make us a little bit more dutiful. I just saw, my sister sent me this hilarious reel that said, millennials are the only generation that self-soothe with productivity. And I thought that was hilarious. It's like, we're stressed out. So like if we just add a few more things, we'll forget about it for a minute. And so we'll just do this and we'll do that. And I do think that we have that in our blood,
mhm,
is like,
mhm,
she always sends me things that didn't apply to me because I wasn't a heavy drinker, but she'd be like, we were the generation that would go out and show up to work with a hangover. Like we didn't call out. We just pushed through it always. No calling out, no sick, no anything like that, all through our menial jobs all the way up to our corporate jobs. And we can just show you how much we can do. So I know somewhere in my marketing, somewhere it says, just because you can do hard things doesn't mean you have to. You really
mhm,
don't need to prove that. I don't know who we're still proving this to, and making that our measurement of our worth is how difficult our tasks are, how full our schedules are, how much money we're making, and how important and stressed out and plugged in we are. And
mhm,
I do feel like we might be slipping back into that, right? So it's like we
mhm,
have to remember that there is an art to this, that we not only have to decondition to allow ourselves to take a leap outside of big four and then corporate, because corporate is quitting in the accounting world, and allow ourselves to take the leap to try something on our own, and then make sure that when we're doing it, we don't just become the worst boss because The only thing worse than
Mm,
working 60 or 80 hours a week is never turning your brain off and working whatever 24 times 7 is.
yeah.
So
Yeah. I totally agree.
it's so easy to do because we have to decondition, rewire, flip everything that we know on our head and stop caring what people think about us and worry about if our day is the way that we wanted it to be, which is why we
Mm,
start Libby with that exercise
mhm.
of looking into how you actually want your day to be. Very, I make you go through that. I'm very serious about that exercise that we admit. Did you want to resist that?
Mm.
Right? Do you remember coming into Libby and then it's like, let's
Oh
go through
yeah.
your
Oh
perfect
yeah.
day.
Because I'm
You're
like,
probably like, I
yeah, I'm like,
still have
oh,
some
this is
sales
so
strategies.
I'm such a numbers person. Like, let me just go check this off. I don't want to like slow down and like think about what my perfect day is. But I think I come back to it a lot. And even I think the deconditioning takes so long. And I've been doing this for almost 2 years, and I still feel like I have to decondition myself from quick responses, from taking on more than I can take on, from saying yes to things that I really shouldn't be doing for clients, things like that. And I think it was 2 weeks ago. The year end ended up being a little bit crazier than I anticipated this year. And so the first 2 weeks of January, I was working a lot more than I normally work. And me and my husband were talking, and we were like, should we rethink about school and like putting our kids in school so I can have like more dedicated time? And it was like, it took me like 2 days after that to be like, no, the reason that I switched this whole life is like going back to that perfect day exercise that we do in Libby is to be with my kids. Like if I'm thinking about putting them in school so I can be working on some of these clients that I am doing things for that I shouldn't be doing, then that's messing up the whole thing. And so like even 2 years in, I feel like it's such a continuing to decondition from I think the millennial thing that you were touching on, from just the type A, like productive, doing things that prove I'm valuable, saying yes to everybody and people pleasing, which like if I'm saying yes to things I shouldn't be doing, it's not helping anyone.
Nope.
But that is so real. Even now, 2 years in, I feel like I'm deconditioning. But the thing I love about Libby and the thing that I love about working for myself and owning my own bookkeeping business is you can make those shifts. Like, I'm like, oh, I decided I've taken on too much. Okay, let me just go back and tell people I can't do this anymore. And whereas that autonomy, like, I never had in my career, you just always had to do what your boss told you to do or what you know, you had to hit the hours or whatever. But now it's like, okay, I can like change this to match the life that I want to live instead of just having to say yes, hunker down and like do what I'm supposed to do. One other thing that I am remembering about my journey is that when I had decided that I was not going to come back after my maternity leave with my second daughter, the kind of the agreement that my boss and I had come to is that I would come back at 10 hours a week. And thinking in the moment when I was like still on maternity leave, hadn't thought about making my own business yet. I was like, this is great. Like I can work 10 hours a week, I can still make money, I can contribute, to our family, but still like be present with my kids, but still work some. But my boss was like, but you need to have a 6-month waiting period just to like kind of clear things with HR. So you move from employee to contractor. And I was like, great. And it was in those 6 months that found Libby, that I started my own business. And by the time I got to 6 months in August, they never called me, which was like weird. But I just think it was such a blessing that I didn't say yes immediately and start because I think I would have gotten in this, just kind of continue the rat race of working for someone else for an hourly rate. And now, and even 6 months in, I didn't even want to be working 10 hours a week. Like I like to keep it in like closer to five, honestly. And so if I had said yes to that, I would have missed out on so much. I would have made way less money than owning my own bookkeeping business. I would have lost so much autonomy. I would have been stuck into like having deliverables for other people and them dictating what I wanted to do and who I worked on and what I worked on and what I did. And it would have had to be 10 hours. But I'm so glad that I found your program and found the opportunity to create my own business so I can live my perfect day like you talk about in Libby.
Love that. I'm like rapid fire taking notes, but also so happy about all of it. Like the deconditioning taking a while does. It's a constant thing, which is why like I start with that so that we have a guiding star. So we know where we're supposed to go. Because and I've probably told this story 100 times at this point, but for me, I make you guys go through that exercise, which I'm sure some people still skip, right? But at least I'm telling you, if you do, you are missing the plot. Like
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
will be off track, because how can you be on track when you haven't figured out where you're trying to go? And yes, it's hard to give yourself an hour, which is the max of what that takes to do, to figure out what you want, because you think you know, but you really don't. And that's really scary. Like how much
Mhm.
we don't know what we want in our life because we're too busy trying to impress people. And I think what's interesting is we are trying to impress people, but I know that I'm a person that doesn't think that I care. Do you think that you care
Mm.
about impressing people?
No, I would say that I don't, but then my actions show that I really do.
Right,
But honestly, I think the people don't even think about me ever. I think it's
right.
honestly about impressing myself and, like, fulfilling these expectations that I had of myself that now have changed, that maybe I, like, have to die to that still, I don't know.
Yeah, because like you're trying to impress people with what you're doing. Why? Like, why? Who? Do you really care? Because you probably don't. But like you said, your actions are showing that way. I think most of us would say we don't. And so it can be hard to hear that, but then to recognize, well, if I care about this, that, and that, but it will give me this, this, and this, and I'm not doing it because of what people will say, that I absolutely do care, right? And just that awareness can help. So the hour is important to figure it out, so that in every micro thing you're deciding, am I closer, am I further away?
Mm,
But yes, we get off track. Like that, I just did a whole episode on that for the intention setting at the beginning of the year, because
mhm,
I force myself to redo it every year, because inevitably
mhm,
things change, things that you didn't think were going to appear show up, and we're never supposed to really cruise. I think that that can
mhm,
maybe be a misconception, that we're going to reach a point of cruising, because we don't. We just want to achieve peace and have those goals met of living your life the way that you want the majority of the time, recognizing that you're responsible for what happens in a day, and you're
mhm,
responsible in almost everything that happens to you. You have an element of responsibility, which I love, because it also means that you have an element of control. So if I
mhm,
have to accept that an undesirable state is a result of choices and actions that I made or tolerated that got me there, that's hard, but
mhm.
it's easier to know that that means that I have choice in what happens next. So it's better to
Right.
just take responsibility and then figure out where can I adapt. And what I love about bookkeeping is we do actually have that. Like you said, we are not that deep into anything. We can adapt and we can decide what's not working, what are my options for fixing this, and they're usually plentiful. Like we usually have, I would be able to give you at least two, probably up to four different things that you could do. And you start with, what do I want? What works for
Mhm,
me? And then,
mhm,
like you said, the thing, like you said something in here about who it doesn't serve. Oh, the things that you're doing for
mhm.
people and it's not actually helping them, that you continue to do that.
Right.
It's really helpful because it feels selfish to look at what we want and drive that result, even though it makes sense because we're a part of this and they can always say no, right? They always have the choice to say, no, I don't want to meet you there. But it's still hard when you're making decisions that are solely based on what you want. So if you
Mhm,
you stuff yourself out of it, I usually like hover above it, remove myself from the equation, look at who else is in there. And I'm like, well, if I don't, how do they play in? Like, if I
mhm,
keep doing this thing, am I actually helping them? And if I stop doing this thing, am I actually hurting them? And it's usually like easy to find that what works for you and wins for you can win for them. Sometimes there's just an adjustment to a process, an education, a conversation, an increase in scope, even if it means that you'll do something for them, but you'll also bill them for it. Because a lot of times
right,
we think that people are asking us for cheap and free, but they're not always. And we can give them the
mhm,
opportunity, right? So that's one way. So making the shift is something that's so important. And you gave me goosebumps when you talked about like recognizing why you started this business and making sure that you protect those reasons and you adjust whatever is happening that is friction, or like there's a
mhm,
solution there, and you guide yourself back. That's the idea.
mhm,
I recently, for me, I recently just experienced this. I joined like a new business development group. I haven't been a part of one in a while, and I joined it for this year, and it's kind of big, and they put you with these like calls, and the calls came in for me in my time zone 4 to 5:30 p.m. and that's what it's going to be once a month for 6 months. And I'm like
Mm,
thinking about the ways that I can make it work, and then I'm thinking this is so against my values. That is the time
mhm,
that is the time that I try to close down, walk to the bus stop, pick my kids up, help them with their backpacks, think about dinner, transition to activities. If I have to ask for help, that's stressful, could be impossible. And if I take the call while I'm doing that, I'm distracted from both
mm,
things. And I didn't start this business to be working through 5:30. Like
mm,
that
mm,
doesn't work. So I spoke up, and it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy, but I said to myself, like, you started this business to spend time with your family. You did not
mm,
start this business to pursue things that pull you away from it, even if it's only once a month, especially now,
mm,
especially at this point. And if I do that there, if I build in that way, how will I end up somewhere else? What is
mm,
that? What is that doing? Like, it's not a good, like, whatever scope creep is, it's
mhm.
boundary creep, especially when it's on yourself. You have to call yourself back to it. So I'm like, I could maybe
Yeah.
figure this out, but I really don't want to. And so I'm not going to. And that was how, and I thought about that as I made that decision. I'm like, this is how, not that I haven't ever made momentary sacrifices, like things that might be necessary or short-lived, but protecting my life is how I built my
Mm,
business. That is the way
mm,
that you build it. It actually helps you build it so much faster. And I know that that can seem like there's no way, like saying yes and sending out quotes and signing clients is the way. It's really not. You can't build in that way and then achieve freedom. You have to build with freedom
mm,
protected the whole time. And
mhm,
you have to be really fierce about it.
mhm,
So yes, and then so I wanted to talk about what it looks like now, because you
mm.
talked about working closer to 5 hours. So yeah, can you tell us like where you're at in your business, what you're able
Yeah.
to do, achieve, and maybe where you're going in this
Yeah.
next season?
One other piece about this is, right, it was a year before I left my job. My husband had switched to self-employed and is a real estate broker. And so that was a really scary leap. And my income kind of like carried us through that scary leap. And so he's 100% commission. And so another reason I really started this business was to provide more predictable income when his income is like really sporadic, sometimes only once every 6 months, to kind of carry us so that we knew our monthly expenses are covered and our base monthly expenses. And then we're not like always just wondering when is his next paycheck going to come. So kind of to provide that more peace. So that's kind of in the backdrop also of why I started this business. But so right now I have 10 clients. I just hit 10, and I have 3 employees, 2 who kind of work the majority of them, and one of them who just does one client. But the employees, I think each have 2 client, and they work like maybe 5 to 10 hours a month. So it's still pretty small scale, but I'm so glad that I joined Libby to encourage me to hire earlier so that I could protect that 5 to 10 hours, because I think I'm just prone to like doing it myself, proving. And so Libby really helped me protect and hire way before I ever would have, to be able to scale. So that's where I am now. I think the end of year has skewed my working, but I really do like to keep it in that 5 to 10 hours. I have a babysitter. I have 3 kids, 3 and under now, and I have a babysitter for 6 hours a week who comes, and then we like to frequent the Y Play Center. So I put them in the Y Play Center. They can go for up to 2 hours, and so if I have things that I need to catch up on that didn't get in the 5 hours, you can most frequently find me in the YMCA lobby finishing up some bookkeeping. And I think like maybe before year end, I would have really said I want to have 20 clients by the end of 2026. But I think I really want to just like grow at the pace that I can handle, because I don't want my business to become stressful. I just want to feel like it's like serving our life, boosting, like just building us up, instead of like taking away my presence from my kids, taking away my time from my husband in the evenings, where I don't want to be stressed about it and thinking about it. I just want to be like present with them. But the one exciting thing, it was even just this month. month's budget. We were just kind of looking over January and like how had we done personally finances this last month. And it was the first month that I feel like my business, it was like, wow, my business monthly income is like really contributing to our monthly expenses. It doesn't fully cover it yet, but it was the first month that we both looked at it and we were like, oh my gosh, this is providing so much peace of mind to kind of get to where we wanted to be 2 years ago, where my business would help carry us through his inconsistent income. It was just such a, I don't know, relief. And like, I was like, wow, has felt slow, the growth. But in 2 years, I am now like making a meaningful impact on our family's, budget and expenses. And I feel like I've kept it at a place where I'm still really present with our kids. I still contribute a lot on the home side to our family, but this business is like doing what I wanted it to do 2 years ago. And it's just really exciting.
Yeah, it's awesome, especially with babies. I mean, because I want to ask some questions and kind of highlight a couple of things too, which is like 2 years in the business, 10 clients, three kids, three and under, not in school. And so, how old is your youngest?
He's 5 months.
Right. So, like, out of those 2 years, 5 months to the
Yeah.
baby, 9 months pregnant with babies makes it steady growth. And
Hmm.
I love to, I'm curious, like, well, I love the way that you have it sprinkled because it really reminds me of like what I was doing at that time. Like, my kids were, when my third was born, 0, 2, and 3. So I had three and
Hmm.
under for a period. They were not in school. That's when I was pregnant. Growing the bookkeeping business was when I was pregnant with my third. And
Yeah.
I had probably about the same three, maybe four people helping me, very small, so that I knew that they had what they could manage without stress to meet secondhand
Hmm.
stress. They knew those clients very well. So, they were able to work fairly autonomously, not fully. And I think we might have been somewhere around 20 at that point because I think I went from 5 to 18 and then I signed another right after I had her. And I think I hovered at that 20 point for a little bit. And I did the babysitter almost just like you're saying. I think I had her 2 days a week, around 4 hours. I tried the three thing at first, and you spend a lot of time transitioning, hiding in your room and
Yeah.
whatever to get stuff done if you're trying to get stuff done because you might use that for anything else, right? And you just
Right.
have that time for calls or work or nothing, right? If you want. So,
Hmm.
and I'm curious what maternity leave was like. Like, what was it like pregnant and well, you're still kind of in that. You have a 5 month
Yeah.
old to me
Postpartum a little bit.
is in that maternity leave era. So, what did it look like? Did you sign any
Yeah.
new clients? Did you onboard? Did you work?
Yes. Yes, I think so. This was the first time I've done maternity leave self-employed. And I think going back, I would do things a lot differently. So I took 1 month off fully. But then when so he was born in September. In October, my business revenue doubled. I signed 4 clients in October, which was when I had a 1 month old. And which was it's just crazy how clients reach out in waves. I feel like I have had like 6 months of no inquiries, which is totally fine. And then all of a sudden I like got all these new inquiries and was having all these sales calls with a 1 month old. And I think looking back, I would take more like 3 months, just like totally off, even if people are coming to me, because I think it was just a little bit too much. 1 month, having a 1 month old and then having two other kids and hopping right back into things right away. But now finally, I've just finished those 4 cleanups, and now they're just like recurring monthly clients. So I feel like I'm in a better place. But it was a lot. But I think that's like, something that you live and you learn. Like I went back too fast. I did too much right after he was born. And now next time, if we have number 4, I don't have to. I can just say 3 months I'm off. Even if I get inquiries, I can just say I'll be available in 4 months, 5 months. I don't even have to do it after 3 months. And if they still want to sign, great. If not, no problem. I've protected my time and my time with my baby and stuff like that. So that was a challenge, but you just learn and live through it and make different choices the next time. But also really exciting because my business grew a ton and now I'm getting to reap the benefits of that. So I don't know that it was like necessarily a loss. I think I would just do it differently, but I'm still really glad that I have those clients that I have now.
Right, because it's like opportunity. There it is. And
Yeah.
you can stagger. That's like, so two ways that I see, and this is what I was saying, like two ways that you could combat that next time while still seizing the opportunity is schedule them out. Like take the sales
Mhm.
call a month from then because they won't even care. And then when you do it, tell them when you're going to start. Like I had a sales call today before I got on with you. And I was like thinking, we're in one of those surges right now, which is so funny because I keep desperately wanting to go into actual marketing. And as soon as I say it, the inquiries come before I mark it. It's just like you said, like it just happens from
This happens.
these are, I'm trying to think because it's a lot. Some of it is one is a quarterly client going monthly, one is a business that we do having a second business, one is someone who left and is coming back, one is we don't do this for anybody else, but we're going to take on weekly invoicing for one of our
Mm.
best clients. But I talked about that for months before we decided to do it to make sure that this is a system that makes sense in a way that makes sense with someone who's ready to do it with us in the time that makes sense. And who else? Oh, one referral from a client with a quote out for a referral from a client with the sales call today from a referral from a client. So it's really all stuff that happens within the business, which is really
Mm.
interesting, just the way that those waves work. But what I did on today's sales call, because we have a lot set for February, is I was like, I think we should start in March. And the way that I say
Mm.
that is not like, I didn't say we're busy onboarding a lot of clients. I was like,
Mm.
I explained what his last year was, which was a startup year. I looked at the transactions. I'm like, this is not going to be a big deal with these transactions and getting them in. You don't have a tax need right now. You haven't started generating income yet. You're going to open in March. It might even make sense for us to do it in April, you know? And so I'll think about his quote before I send it out today into tomorrow, potentially into Friday if I'm not clear. Then I'll set the timeline and I'll tell him that. And another one that we're bringing in February, like the invoicing is something we've been talking about for months. The other client that opened their second business, I delayed them until February. He was talking about it in the fall. I'm like,
Mm.
you go to February. Well, you don't matter right now. Like you can go, it's
Mhm.
fine. You haven't had books and it's the holidays and
Mhm.
you're not going to respond anyway. And you don't want to, and I don't want
Mhm.
to. And once we put you in February, you're fine for taxes. So let's just put you
Mm.
there. What I do sometimes is accept like a payment upfront or subscribe them. In
Mhm.
Kajabi, I can do like a trial that has them opt in and then it'll bill on that day. So I do some of that to where like they're engaged and I don't have to re-engage later. But that's a way that you can do it. And something else that you could consider too, but today might not be the best because you have to have the capacity to get to this point of trust, or you do it small, put someone through
Mm.
babs, have them trained so that they
Mm.
can start onboarding their own clients, or just
Mhm.
give them the task, right? Because you could start things like what I do, connect the bank feed. I usually do this on the onboarding call, connect the bank feed, pull in the historic transaction. So that's already loaded. I might tell somebody that's been doing a client that's similar, can you go through and start coding some of these? Like, can you,
Mhm.
right? Those are things where you could help expedite your time. And this is the kind of thing
Yeah.
where I'm talking about like how it could just be done in a different way without saying no, without working too much. They're just
Yeah.
possibilities. But I always
Yeah.
think that we should pay attention to our desire and our capacity. And sometimes that's just mental. Like just
Mhm.
going back to this, just because you can doesn't mean that you should, doesn't mean that you need to. But I also love not only did you grow after having a baby, but in that period, they all stayed, right? Like there was
Mm.
no
Mhm.
turnover.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you grew, and like I said, what is the 14 months in 2 years of baby development
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
postpartum.
Yeah.
5-month-old is not slow. And what I would like to say, and this is less to you and more to anyone who's listening, because a common thing that I see in any correspondence, whether it's like a Babs or Libby application or a DM or whatever, is like, what if it doesn't work? And I really want to do
Mm.
a whole other episode on it. But like, if I told you that your growth would be slow, would
Mm.
you prefer to take no steps? Like, we
Mm.
all want to get to 20 clients by the end of the year, and some of us do. Some of us do that. But if if you knew that getting yourself to the point where the things that you wanted were achieved in a 2-year period, would it not be worth starting? Especially
Oh,
if you're
yeah.
doing it with like, and you're not killing yourself. You're not working 40 hours a week to get to this point. You're working intentionally, mindfully, paying attention to your capacity, your desire, your ethics. You're employing other people who are making, I mean, I don't know what you're paying them, but no matter what it is, that could be going into a car payment, a retirement savings, a savings for their
Hmm.
child. You have no idea what you're contributing to, but it's probably something.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
yeah, that idea of, if you knew, if you could close your eyes and say, in 2 years' time, I know, especially like you thinking about you 2 years ago, closing your eyes with your desires on your heart and thinking, in 2 years' time, I'll have 10 clients. I'll be home with my 3 kids, one who's not even conceived yet. They
Mm,
will not be in school. I will be contributing meaningfully. We will not be worried about when the next commission check is coming. I will be
mm,
protecting my peace. I will know
mm,
that growth can come. And I will decide when I'm turning on what I call my energetic open sign to call in the clients when I feel ready to take them on. Would
mm.
that not be worth starting?
If I look back, if I had known that 2 years ago, I think I would have been have started, 2 weeks earlier and be so proud of myself. Like, as you're saying that, like, thinking about all that I've accomplished in 2 years and that I'm living my dream life most days, I just feel so proud and grateful that I found your program because I couldn't have done it without you. And the amount of time, and this is just my plug and advertisement for Libby and Babs, the amount of time and energy that your program saved me in starting my business was I just didn't have extra time to like figure out what systems worked best. And the fact that in Libby you just laid it out for me, just start this. I haven't touched my website since I made it 2 years ago and it works seamlessly.
Love
I
that.
haven't touched my like subscription programs. They work seamlessly. I've never missed getting paid and I've never thought about getting paid from a client thanks to your programs. Like and then Babs, I knew I didn't have time to figure out zero. I knew that when I wanted to put clients in zero, that I had the accounting knowledge, I could have figured zero out. But I knew that if I bought Babs and went through that program, you would save me hours of time and I would instantly know the most efficient way to do things and the correct way to do things and the best way to do things for my clients. So it was just a no-brainer to buy Babs and go through that. And it has served me so well. I mean, it did that, exactly that. It saved me hours. And I feel like I know how to do bookkeeping for clients. And then sometimes I wonder, like, do I need to stay in the coaching program or is it time for me to maybe, just leave and just do things on my own? Have I arrived? But I don't think I have, and I don't think I will because we were in a tech talk yesterday and you answered a question for me that I know will save me hours of time and hundreds of dollars and just questioning one process that I had in place of where I was currently importing all transactions from a software into QuickBooks. And you're like, couldn't you just do that in the software and then just keep QuickBooks accounting? And it's like, oh, this is why I do Libby. This just, paid for my Libby subscription this month and a million times more.
Yeah, like
But
maybe
I'm
for the
just so
year.
grateful.
That's so funny too,
Yes.
because I was going to ask you to
Yes.
touch on Tech Talks because it's like the stepsister of my product suite because I don't talk about it. And I actually love
Hmm.
doing them, which is funny. So I'm going to pin that for 1 second because I do want to talk about the time save and those things because that was exactly what I designed this for. And like, it's not what was me for, oh, I had to start this all on my own and do all of this deconditioning on my own, but I did. And I don't know how. Like, I don't, because I really did not know these things, is why I was so passionate to take it to the podcast and to start spreading the word about this because I didn't know there was another way. And so, the coach that I've worked with for years, she's always telling me, like, the best thing to do for coaching is just be a bookkeeper, which I've never let go of. For me, the nervous system regulator is 1000% the bookkeeping business. So my focus
Hmm.
has kind of always been there as a priority in what I need in my life. And like you said, like that's the thing. Like in your relationship, that's the stabilizer. In my life, that's the
Mhm.
stabilizer. That's the thing
Mm.
that makes me know that I'm okay financially, can cover my costs, can do the things that I want to do, and I'm not fluctuating, right? And then the coaching is just like a natural byproduct of that because I am so passionate and I do love it. My daughter said to me
Mhm.
yesterday, it's funny because she's 8. She's like, "Do you like your job?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And I can honestly say yes to her. And I
Mhm.
also, we're recording this in January. I don't know when it's going to hit the podcast, sometime next month in February, but we're still in January as we're recording this. And January is
Mhm.
the busy time for bookkeepers. And I've got a lot going on right now. Like I'm doing something, I don't know how
Mm.
much I'll talk about publicly, but it's like a consulting thing where I'm training an
Mm.
internal bookkeeper, which is taking up a lot of time in the busiest month of the year
Mm.
for us while talking to all of these prospects. And my son's birthday happens, and I had company in town and all this stuff. So for me to say in January that I like what I do is pretty big, I
Mm.
think. And so the purpose of the
Mhm.
podcast, which came after the programs, and the purpose of the programs, I mean, it was Instagram first. And it was Instagram first and people asking me questions and then me thinking, well, I could probably help you with that. Let's figure it out. And
Mm.
that was the first round of what became Libby, right? That's the history. Is that was a very intimate group happening on Zoom over 3 months at 9 o'clock at night, because that's the
Mm.
time that I could do and when we kind of all could do. And we did amazing things. And then it turned into a year later, like, well, I need the skill. And it's like, or I could
Mm.
realize that maybe there are efficiency things that are slowing down growth and success. Because if I worked exclusively in QuickBooks, the truth is I would bottleneck way faster. We do have some
Mhm.
clients in QuickBooks where it makes sense. I will take them if the price and the system makes sense, and I'll keep them there if it's not broken. But it's almost never my choice. So I learned zero from frustrations in QuickBooks. And I think at that time, I really only had a few clients, like 4. And I had that one big client. They were in QuickBooks Desktop. How did I access their stuff? Yeah, they were though. I don't know how. I might have remoted in. I don't know. But
Mm.
I was in QuickBooks. I think all of my clients were on QuickBooks Desktop now that I'm thinking
Wow.
about it. Because, yeah, I was super cheap back then, which is why this
Mm.
is how I learned. I'm like, I can bill you this way and save the fees. I can do this and save the fee.
Mm.
And at the time, QuickBooks Desktop was a lot cheaper. This would have been like 2020,
Mm.
2017 or something when I would have been in there.
Mm.
And I did have a friend who had started a bookkeeping business before I even understood that. We worked together in corporate. It's really funny. And I was, I don't know, I never wanted to bother her with questions about it because she moved to California. I'm here in Florida.
Mm.
And I just didn't want to take her time. And I didn't know what she was talking about half the time. But she was
Mm.
like 00000. She lived in California and
Mm.
she was always a little ahead of things like that. So she told me, you need to be in zero. So I tried zero because
Mm.
I was running into an issue with Stripe and PayPal in QuickBooks Desktop.
Mm.
And I couldn't tolerate it anymore. And the bookkeeping that I was doing was for a friend. So I didn't want to increase her price. You know what I mean? I wanted to
Mm.
keep it as lean as I could. And I was like, there's got to be a way I can do this faster. And so I was
Mm.
very like obsessively passion driven with it and figuring it out. But then I started taking on more different clients and realizing we've got a good system in place. And that was back in 2019, back before I knew a lot of tricks about zero that make it even
Mm.
better. I'm thinking of 5
Mm.
major things I didn't know when zero was still better. And so I rolled up my sleeves and already learned it. And then I'm like, okay. And I've spoken to this before, but my hesitancy with creating a program like Babs lasted years. People were telling me that I
Mm.
should do that before Libby was even there. Before I had even grown my bookkeeping business. A business coach had told me that I should teach bookkeepers how to do bookkeeping. And I'm like, how? Like, why? Why would I do that? And the reason that I couldn't see it is because I pictured that they would want to relearn accounting. I'm like, I cannot do that
Mm.
better than an accounting textbook. And that they would want QuickBooks, but QuickBooks is not what I would choose. So why would I teach it? And ultimately, I don't know why that took so long to click, but I'm like, I
Mm.
don't have to teach them what they want to learn. I'll just teach them what to
Mm.
achieve the goal of what they want. Right. And that's where I
Mm.
came into zero and making it a more real client. and figuring that out. But the goal of these programs was to do what you said, because and save you time and get you there faster, because my real goal is to share with anyone. I mean, especially talking to you with 3 kids, what I wanted to say more is women with small children, just because
Mm,
that's who I really was then. But anyone who wants
mm,
more time, more money, more autonomy to do
mm,
something real and something of value and something tangible, but do it well and profitable and in the best interest of their client, then that's what I wanted to spread. So
mm.
I always thought in the creation of any program and anything, like, how can I do that for you while running my bookkeeping business, while showing up for my family, and making you also take it
Mm,
seriously, right? So that's the sweet spot where I figure out, like, this is enough to charge you to where it's not stupid low and devalued, but it's also not as high as other competitors will do, because it doesn't have to be. And I don't run ads, and I don't pay big marketing dollars. So I keep
mm,
it low
mm.
and organic, and let people come in like that. But there's programs that do this stuff that I don't think that they're as effective, and I think they charge 5 times more, and they're more
The
interested in.
cost is like, yeah, you will make your money back so quickly. Just if you're on the fence about joining either of the programs, just make the leap, because you will, yeah, make the money back so fast, and you won't even I've never thought twice about the investment that I've made in those programs. They've been so worth it. I think I would have paid 5 times more, Katie. Now looking back, I'm like, it's definitely 5 times price
Yeah.
worth it.
People
But
do it too. I mean, they do it with, like, I put competitors in air quotes because I spend very little time looking at that stuff. I don't want
mm,
to. I've had people push me to raise prices. I also have people that tell me that it's expensive, like, because price is subjective. So I'm
mm,
like, that's fine. I know I
yeah,
can't do it
yeah.
for any cheaper. That would be ridiculous, because I know what I'm selling you and I know what you're getting in there. And that would be stupid for me to give it away cheaper. Also, it devalues it, and it would make people show up less, and then they would not achieve the goal as much. And I
Right,
can't
right.
promise the ROI, because I can't promise that you like bookkeeping. I can't promise that you're going to show up and actually implement it. There's a lot of different
Mm,
factors that can go in, so I can't promise it. But I will say that the people that show
mm,
up, commit, and really desire this, they get it. They get it back fast. And so Tech Talks and the price of Libby's continuous
yeah.
membership, I made sure that the price of the membership was enough. So if X amount of people showed up, it would be worth me doing. And then I
Hmm.
want you to pay less than the cost of one client. And I want you to always get that benefit over the year and then some. Like, you'll probably get 10-fold benefit, especially if you show up. Even just a
Right.
little, I referenced a tech talk today because my sales call was with somebody using Toast, and I can't quite remember what that looked like. So I'm like, let
Mm,
me get into the tech talks, search Toast. I got to see the
mm,
reports. I have a much better idea of what I'm going to quote them and what that looks like. Clunkier than I thought,
mm,
so I need to factor in that price. But just so you guys know, tech talks are just included in the Libby
mm,
membership. It's a vault of things dating back to September of 2022 of monthly topics. I've got them spliced by topic, so you can do something like search Toast and go straight to a video about the Toast CRM. You can come with your question live, get it answered, and then, yeah, we think about what's happening. We do the best to brainstorm it. We put all of our brains on it, and we end up with a solution or direction or clarity, like we talked about yesterday, that you're not insane on something. Yeah, something's weird here.
mm,
Here's the list of things that I would try, and given what we've looked at, here is what I would do, right? Because accounting
mm,
and bookkeeping are imperfect. But
mm.
Tech Talks also, just for podcast listeners, are available outside of Libby, which I do because I think that there are some people that might listen that might find themselves, like, you have an established business, you have the 20 clients, you've got the skill, you don't need those kind of things, but you do want somebody to brainstorm with on your clients and really geek out on the technical subjects. And so that is available. I don't really promote it or talk about it, but it's there. So I love that you took the leap, that you showed up, that you have achieved the goals. It's huge. And it really means everything to me, because it's
Mm,
what I do this for. So I also
mm.
want to thank you for being here, being a part of the community, but also sharing your story and your experience.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. This has been so fun. Fun for me to go outside my comfort zone and record a podcast. I remembered one funny thing when I was first found Libby and was talking about it. My sweet mom, she called me and she goes, I just am a little worried that you're getting scammed. And she didn't want me to be paying for a scam. But that is not what at all. It's not a scam. And tech talks are such peace of mind for me. And I think they really make me feel like I'm not alone. Like
Oh
if
yeah.
I take on these clients and I run into an issue that I just don't know, it's the part of not feeling alone in it. In that, in the tech talks, but also in Libby. Like if I run into an issue in my business, I just don't feel alone because I know I can always fall on you and the community and just find help for whatever problems that I don't know that are going to come.
Yeah, that's the idea too, because it can be lonely when you're by yourself. And like, if you're running a
Mm.
team, you don't want to go to them and ask these questions. Like, you really should have more answers. But at
Yeah.
the same time, where are you going to find them, especially when you're just conflicted on something like, this is what I'm seeing, but this is what I'm feeling. This is what the client's saying. This is what their CPA is saying. And those four things can sometimes not align. And then you have to make a decision. So it's much better when you have somebody that
Mhm.
you can run it by who's actively listening and understands, because those are the things that you'll be missing.
Mhm.
Sometimes I'm talking, I still do it. I pulled it way back in some past years where I realized I was talking about business in technical depth to people that don't do this, wanting them to listen, process, and then give
Mm.
me an educated
Mhm.
answer on it. And it's just genuinely too much to ask. Like, they can't do it. And do you ever gloss
Mhm.
over when somebody's talking about, I do it with several
Oh,
things.
yeah.
If you talk to me about a car, I am not in the room. Like, I have no idea what you're saying. I'm also like that with anything medical. I simply cannot process the information. It's just not how my brain works. So we're
Mhm.
doing this to
Mhm.
our friends and family, and they can't understand. Does your mom remember saying that to you?
Mhm.
Yeah. What does she say
Yeah,
now?
I think she does.
Oh, you don't talk about it?
We laugh about it. We're
Good.
Oh, no, 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 we do. We've talked about it and we've been like, "Oh, yeah, good thing it wasn't a scam."
Yeah.
But it's just funny to kind of laugh when we look back on it.
Well, and it's also valid, and we talk about it in all different areas. Like for that, with paying money, it makes sense, especially online. And like some people do bad things, and they create bad programs. And that helps so much when people like you come and share your experience, so that people can make a decision because they have that desire on their heart, but they also have natural hesitation, right? And
Mhm.
it's
Mhm.
usually people's first big investment into something like this. And
Yeah.
what I wanted to say about it though was, you may also run into some people who are naysayers, and that comes from love, from trying to
Mhm.
keep you safe. And that's it.
Mhm.
So they're trying to keep you safe and they don't know. And yes, it can be
Mhm.
scary to take the leap in and listen to somebody else, but I also want to say, because we touched on this with competitors and different things, like, I would really pay attention to, and this goes for your bookkeeping business and it goes for anything. When you're looking for advice or mentorship, is that person, have they done the thing that you want to do? Are they aligned with
Mm.
who you are? Are they living
Mhm.
it? Like, are they going to be able to understand and work you through it? And that's what we do have here. So I'm really glad, like I said, that you did it anyway and really showed up for yourself, because that's the only way that you
Mm.
actually get the results. So you showed
Mhm.
up and you stayed the course, and you stayed patient and present, and making the like right choice for you and your capacity at each step. And
Mhm.
it sounds like you're still doing that with like gauging, what do I value? What do I want? And what am I willing to give? Because there always will be that exchange. So kudos to
Totally.
you.
Totally. Thanks so much, Katie. Thanks for having me on the
Thank you.
podcast.
Thank you so much. All right. Bye.
Bye.